in terms of external validation. It's so dangerous to do that. And I had enough time struggling as an actor to see how external validation means nothing. People who use that as their measuring stick are have a lifetime of misery. You just see it. People who are insatiable for some sort of validation that they're never going to get, ever.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Today's guest is authentic, down-to-earth, and a great conversationalist. It was such a joy to have Brennan on. This is a deep, free-flowing chat, and I appreciate Brennan's insights and his ability to move beyond discomfort. Plus, he has an uplifting nature about him. This is one not to miss. Okay, let's get into it. Brennan Brown is a stage and screen actor known for portraying complex and multifaceted characters. After graduating from the Yale School of Drama, he landed roles on Broadway in revivals of Shaw's Major Barbera and Stoppard's The Real Inspector Hound and the 15-minute Hamlet, and in leading theatres throughout America. On screen, Brennan has worked with such visionary directors, including Tim Hooper on HBO's John Adams, John Requa and Glenn Ficarra on both of their films, I Love You Phillip Morris and Focus, State of Play directed by Kevin Macdonald, Detachment directed by Tony Kaye, Midway directed by Roland Emmerich, The Wolf Hour and Not Okay. He's appeared in dozens of primetime shows, most notably as antique dealer Robert Chilton on the acclaimed Amazon series The Man in the High Castle, Edward Bibbin on Mozart and the Juggle, Agent Donnelly on Person of Interest, and for the past 10 seasons as Dr. Sam Abrams on Chicago Med. He also appears in the upcoming Netflix series The Beast in Me. Other appearances on long-running shows include Madam Secretary, Elementary, The Blacklist, Damages, Bull, Ugly Betty, The Good Wife, Breaking Bad, and others. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about being an introvert, flow state, his medallion on Circle Cinema's Walk of Fame, moving around a lot as a kid, sobriety, auditioning, The Man in the High Castle, Chicago Med, perfectionism, and wanting to get it right, unlearning, meditation, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. Let's start here. This is pretty cool. Can you tell me about the medallion you received on the Circle Cinema Walk of Fame? That's pretty cool.
That's amazing that you know about that. Wow, that's really cool. That is a very silly thing. It's not silly. It was very touching. I grew up in Tulsa. I moved all over as a young person. My dad was in the Navy and in medical school. And this was all during Vietnam. I was born in LA, grew up in California, and then we moved around while he was training and finishing his postgraduate medical training. Ended up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because they had it was a big town, medical town for cardiac surgery at the time, back late 70s. Cardiac surgery, triple bypasses and open heart surgeries were very prevalent and really just becoming a thing. And Tulsa is, I don't know if you know Oklahoma. Oklahoma is right in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Of the United States, right above Texas. And so Tulsa is a big metropolitan center, and it would get a lot of patients from North Texas and from Arkansas, which is where my parents were originally from, Kansas, Missouri. Tulsa was kind of a destination medical place for treatment of those people. And so he got a job as a surgeon there, which suited them because it was close enough to where they had originally grown up. They were from, my mom's dad was a farmer, and my dad's dad was like a country doctor. And
Oh, wow.
so anyway, ended up in Tulsa, and really for the most part of my from like say second or third grade on through high school, I was there, and worked a lot in the regional theater company there in town. There were a number of regional theaters. Again, this would be back in the 80s when I was in junior high and high school, grade school, junior high, and high school. And back when there was funding in America for the arts, there used to be
Yeah.
regional theater companies. And so I worked in Tulsa a lot. There were a lot of them there, a great ballet company that I worked with and danced with for a long time. And so I just had a lot of kind of roots in Tulsa. Tulsa was also the town that The Outsiders is the woman who wrote The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, grew up in Tulsa, and that was about Tulsa. Tulsa is a really weird place, uh, socioeconomically, racially. It's where the race massacre happened back in the early 20th century, right in Tulsa in the north side of town, where I went to high school at Booker T. Washington High School. Anyway, Tulsa, I've got some, if I have roots anywhere, it would probably be there. And the movie theater that S.E. Hinton writes about in The Outsiders, when Pony Boy is first coming out of the movie theater, that's that movie theater, which is still an art house cinema, and they are doing incredible work bringing independent cinema, independent movies. It's one of the last remaining independent movie theaters anywhere, but particularly in the South Midwest where I'm from. And they have a little collection of plaques that they've given to people who are from Tulsa originally. And so there's a good number of us that have gotten plaques there. A number of my friends are there.
Are you being modest? It's not every day you get one of these. You get one of these.
It was very sweet. It was very kind of them. And it's a place that I'm very proud to, because of their commitment to cinema and community outreach, and their values are great. And I want to support that place any way I can. It's called the Circle Cinema, and they're the best. So yes, they were kind enough to give me a plaque, and we had a very funny little ceremony. And
Can you tell me about it?
well, the funniest thing was my mom and dad. My mom was still alive at the time, and my dad is still alive. And my brother came. A bunch of people that I'd known throughout my high school experience came without me knowing about it. They had a bunch of people there.
How
Were
nice.
gonna be there. People I'd acted with in the American Theater Company, which is the name of the theater group that I worked with a lot. Lovely people from my high school, friends that I hadn't seen in decades. It was really sweet. I was just kind of overwhelmed by it and very moved. But the funniest thing was that we have a family friend, my brother's age. I have a younger brother, 3 years younger than me, and his best friend's name is Travis. Travis was always around when I was growing up. So he was, if you imagine, we moved to Tulsa, and he and my brother became best friends. And Travis is maybe 6'7". He's a huge guy.
Yeah, big guy.
And truly one of the funniest human beings I've ever met in my life. And he was around our house all the time. His mom very tragically passed away very early. And so he and my mom and his mom were best friends. So that whole family we were very close to. Travis was always around with us and kind of a honorary member of the family. It was just me and my brother, but then Travis would go on trips with us sometimes. And he randomly showed up to this event giving me a plaque dressed as Peter Pan, because I played Peter Pan in the regional theater company I was talking about. I think I was the only boy that's usually played by a young woman. And for a long time, I think it was the only boy who played him in a professional production of Peter Pan. Anyway, I look around at all these people, and then all of a sudden I see 6'8" Travis in full-on green hat, green tights, green tunic, fake dagger. I was like, and just he wanted to dress as Peter Pan because wanted to
That's what he
honor the
does.
work that I've done. And I laughed so hard for some reason. I could not stop laughing the whole time looking at him. This giant man dressed as Peter Pan.
Do you think he had to get it custom made? Because being that height,
His wife was there with him, and I was like, "Holy shit! How did you do this?" And she's like, "You'll never know. We went to a number of different costume shops." And she's been married to Travis for how many years? And she's like, and she's a very normal, lovely, brilliant
I love the
woman.
normal.
And she's like, "Yep, here he is. My husband's dressed as a giant Peter Pan."
Did she
They
slip
went
the
to a
ring off?
long-suffering wife, Julie, lovely woman. And there he is in his giant green tights. It was
That's
incredible.
amazing. And, go back to that moment, people, it's family, friends, which is amazing. Then people you haven't seen. Do you feel validated as as an actor and a human, or you already had that before?
No, you know what? Honestly, I just felt kind of mildly embarrassed. I was, I was very touched, but I was also like, gosh, they're going to a lot of trouble. I don't really have that feeling of like that kind of thing doesn't necessarily, I get very uncomfortable talking about myself and very uncomfortable even being interviewed on this podcast. I should say that
You're doing great.
I'm not justifying this as like, oh, I'm so humble. I think I really have a real problem with I'm just terribly shy and terribly introverted, and it's something that a lot of actors are. Oh yeah,
I am so surprised by that. You do
I
not
know
come
people
across
are. I know. Do I not? I know I'm pulling the wool because I can't
fully the
tell you how I just don't. I would rather do anything than talk about myself. I love asking people questions, and I love interviewing people. I love reading interviews with people. I find them fascinating. But getting interviewed myself or talking about my own life is something that I find really just kind of almost pathologically uncomfortable.
Well,
And so at this event, yes, be gentle with me.
Yeah.
And at this event, so I that was kind of like I just felt like, oh my God, I was so happy to see everybody. I just wanted to hang out and chat with them, but I didn't particularly get a feeling of fulfillment. It was a gratitude that I knew these people and gratitude to them for being there. But it certainly didn't make me feel like, well, I've certainly arrived. It was more like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to have these lovely human beings in my life who come and do this and come out on an afternoon and spend their time with us here. It was really touching.
That's a great perspective.
I guess so. I don't know. I found it really moving for that reason. Just seeing those folks made me feel amazing and just made me grateful for them.
I'm glad. I think that's a great. There's a lot of, as there's a lot of egos in the industry. There could have been a lot of people like walk around. You're rolling your eyes. I'm sure there's a few people that you don't need to tell.
There are. But it's funny. Like a lot of actors that I know, the people that I know and like whose work I really admire, they are, if anything, just as, if not more introverted than me. I mean, a lot of us, particularly actors that I know, actors and actresses, I'm using gender neutral, not really comfortable with being the center of attention and being, because acting provides you with the opportunity to do that without being, you're doing it in the service of something else, in service of what the playwright has written or in service of what the show is doing or whatever. But a lot of my favorite actors, both as people and as performers, are very uncomfortable with being themselves in front of a group of people. I think there's this expectation, particularly now. I guess it's always been this way. You look back, early days of cinema, in the 50s, there's always been some sort of bullshit selling soap kind of aspect to showbiz.
Yeah.
They had Natalie Wood come out dressed as an Indigenous American for her role in The Searchers when she was 16. And you know what I mean? You just, well, tell us about your role. And, and so actors have always had to do that kind of dog and pony show about being, charming and whatever. But I think it's worse now with media, with the proliferation of digital media in all forms, and particularly the pervasive quality of all of the entertainment. It used to just be like you'd have Entertainment Tonight, and that was the or E on, E television. But now it's like however many billions of YouTube channels there are, and they expect actors to be super charming and super, adept at handling. And I think, we demand this of anyone, I guess. You demand it of our athletes if they're, they have to give post-game interviews and they have to be good at, getting in front of a microphone and chatting. But man, that's the last thing that I consider myself good at.
It's really interesting because I've always thought about this. And, there's, maybe someone's promoting a movie and they have to do like 30 interviews back to back to back to back. And maybe that individual is charming, but how do you keep it going? Like, I know we'll talk about this later on, but The Man in the High Castle saw a few small snippets. That to me would seem quite overwhelming when you're doing like premieres of how there's so many cameras, you can hear all the noise. There's a lot of interviewers asking you quick questions. You're probably quite overwhelmed. You want to see where you are. You want to be maybe with your wife or your castmates, and they just kind of expect you to be like that and then move on. I would be, and I think I'm an extrovert, I would be quite overwhelmed in environments like that. So how have you been able to, do you just like flick a switch and just be like, I could do this, and then
I kind of have to muscle it out. Yeah, I find myself employing things that I used to do, that I find myself employing anyway as somebody who's very shy. I find myself just kind of fuck it, this kind of fuck it switch goes, and I'm just like, well, I'll just chat. Okay, I'm going to be charming, and I can be quick-witted. I mean, improv-ish enough. I can kind of do that. So I kind of treat it as like, well, I just have to be on my toes, and you just kind of heighten your senses and get yourself into that position where you can. But man, particularly on a carpet where people are yelling things, or an oppressor where you're all day, like a Comic-Con or something like that, you begin to. Comic-Con is worse because you're traveling on these. You're just going from one crazy thing to another with like. You're in the middle of like the Javits Center or wherever in Manhattan, and you're in a golf cart, and then you come out to this thing, and it's like, quick, hit this thing with a rubber hammer, and okay, now play this video game, and now tell us about your show, and then go over here and look in there and smile, and what do you think about the new album that's coming out? You're like, what are we even talking about? What is going on? And it can very quickly become very overwhelming. And you can see it with like, you watch these people who are in like the Marvel movies or whatever, where they have to do pressers for weeks at a time. By the end of the day, they're just loopy. And that's why they usually do them together. We would frequently do them together. And you just start giggling with each other, and kind of losing your mind because you become punch drunk and slap happy after a while.
Isn't that good when you're doing it at least with castmates, when it's individual like that? I couldn't think of anything worse than doing like 20 interviews in a row and then I've actually spoken to a few people, or very few, where they've been like the last interview and the guest is just like, let's just get this over and done with it. It's just because, unless if they want to be there, because I know you don't always have much of a say, especially when you're promoting a show of where, and with like the Comic-Cons and stuff, how do you kind of, maintain your energy as well? Do you crash afterwards? Like, do you have any like skills or talent? Yeah, just like a big sleep.
Yeah, stay hydrated and eat enough during the day. There was one point I was doing, I can't remember if it was for High Castle. I only did the one Comic-Con for High Castle, and I did something else. I did another day of press for something, and I can't remember what it was, but I remember just suddenly like, holy shit, if I don't have a banana or like a piece of fruit or a power bar, I'm going to, and look, that's hardly like, that's not working in the salt mines. It's but my job, I think of the acting as my job, and then I'm doing this thing that I understand it's very much part of the job description, and I understand that we have to sell the product, and that everyone is fighting so hard, and the frenzy to get things out there are even more and more pronounced now. So I'm not complaining about having to do it. It's not like, oh, I don't understand. I'm too good to do press. It's not that. Yeah. It's just, I feel like I don't have particularly any skill at it. And you're trying to come up with something intelligent to say without, they don't give classes in this is what I'm trying to say. I mean, maybe they do. I guess I could have gone to a PR person and said, give me a class on how to do this. But I just I learned by watching,
Mm.
and you just kind of wing it. So you're just constantly kind of winging it. So it's tiring, but I'm used to, you want to do a good day's work. And this certainly feels like a day's work, but it's a very odd one where you're just like, what just happened? What did I say? Did I embarrass myself? Did I say the wrong thing? And there's always a great deal of pressure from whatever the, production company or the studio
Oh
or the,
yeah, of course.
I mean, it's like they want you to say something, or they're asking you to hit these points, and you know go onto social media. And I remember one time I had to join TikTok to post on TikTok about.
Do a dance? Did you?
No, thank God. But you're just, it's like you've done your job, and then you have to do this. You have to run this gauntlet that has nothing to do with what you initially were doing. It's very different than playing the character and trying to fulfill the vision of the writer or the director or the production or whatever. It's very different, and it's a very, I don't know. I think just for those of us who are introverted, it becomes it's just an interesting test. You know what I mean? And I can do it. I have to snap myself into that sort of okay, and then afterwards I just go back and lie down in the hotel and stare at the ceiling and moan for a long time.
I appreciate that, and it's really important. It kind of reminds me. I used to be an accountant, and
Oh,
yeah, I know. If you love accounting, I'm proud of you.
no,
You don't
that's
get
a
out.
job. That's
Yeah.
real work.
Yeah, I wasn't very good at it, but I was just looking at like the different levels as well. And you could be the best accountant in the world, but by the time you become like senior manager and maybe go to partner, being a partner is a completely different skill set that it appears you don't get taught. Being a partner, you're selling yourself and the firm and trying to get money, or revenue towards the firm, but that's not taught. So you can be the most brilliant actor or brilliant accountant, and then when
Right.
you have this part that's not actually part of the job, but now it's become part of the job. I always found that very strange. So I think it's important for people to realize it, because you could be the world's best actor, but then you have to do this thing. And unfortunately, that's how it is. I understand the model. But I want to go back
Yes.
to theater as well. So when you were first starting out, did you just have this? Where did that love of theater come from? Because you're doing it at such a young age.
Yeah, I moved around a lot as a kid and was always the new person in school. I think I went to like 6 schools by the time I
Oh,
was
wow.
6 years old, or some crazy thing. I went to like 2 schools in 2 or 3 schools in California, and then 2 schools in Alabama when we lived there for 2 years while my dad was working, doing post residency work there, and then a new school in Tulsa. And so by the time I hit grade school, I'd already been to like, I was always the new kid. And I just suddenly felt like, oh, I know how to do this. And I was good at it. I had a grade school teacher who we did some, you know, grade school plays, and she complimented me on doing so. I played the lion in The Mouse and the Lion, and when they were capturing me, my wig got knocked off, and I just picked it up and put it back on. And she said, "Brennan did a good job just carrying on with this." I mean,
Mm.
that was Atchison, when I was 8 years old or however old, and that kind of clicked in me, and I always kind of had um a confidence on stage that I never had in real life. So
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
gravitated towards it for all the kind of childish reasons of like feeling comfortable or feeling able to express myself in a way that I wouldn't necessarily be able to do in my family or in my real life, just being able to give voice to things and feel comfortable in my own skin, I think was what it did. And so, yeah, I weirdly became, I got into it at a
Weirdly.
young,
I
yeah.
wouldn't, I wouldn't say weirdly, but how was it moving around so much? Because, that could have different effects. How did that help with relationships as well? Like meeting new people, building
I was
friends?
horrible. I mean, I was horrible. I was bullied terribly when I first got to school in grade school, and I didn't feel like I fit in, and I felt like an outsider, and I felt very. Um, it was always a new situation. Every place was so radically different than the last.
Yeah.
I was going from Long Beach, California to Birmingham, Alabama, which could not be more different. And then from Birmingham, Alabama to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's just like, it was all just, every school was a completely new social setup, so completely new. And I just was not particularly comfortable socially. I had some friends. I was a normal kid. I wasn't, horribly awkward, but I just felt like always the new kid and always kind of, and that's not unusual at all. A lot of actors that I know kind of were in that situation where they had to, and that, it is what it is. It's not, I think everybody feels, I mean, who doesn't feel uncomfortable at school? Who doesn't feel like
no one, and everyone feels like an
right?
outsider,
everybody does.
or weird, or they don't fit in.
Yeah, everybody feels that way. So I'm by no means unique. And just for me, it happened to be that was something that I immediately gravitated towards performing on stage. And then we had a pretty good little theater department in my grade school in Tulsa, and that sort of got the ball rolling. And then I went from there to work with a regional theater company.
Cool. But that's also really rare because Australia might be different, or the schools that I went to must have been different. But theatre wasn't, or acting, we didn't really have that at school. And it sounds like you discovered it really early. Is that common in America at such young age?
Man, I don't know now. I mean, this is 150 years ago when I was in grade school. So now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they had we would rotate. I remember we had the school I went to was called Barnard Elementary, which was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, public school. I went to public high school. I went to private school for 2 years in junior high school, and then went back to public school. So Barnard Elementary was a public high school, and we would rotate. We'd rotate in performing arts, and then we'd do visual arts, which was painting, and then we'd do musical art. So we'd rotate those three throughout the course of the year. So we'd have like 2 weeks in one, 2 weeks in another, 2 weeks in another. You know what I mean? I think they kind of, if memory serves, they would break it up into 2 weeks. And the music was taught by a guy named Mr. Townsend, incredible music teacher. Taught us about classical music, taught us choral singing, taught us, passionate, beautiful teacher. To this day, one of the best teachers I've ever had. And then Ms. Atchison in drama was also the same way. We had a little stage, and we just get up there and play around. We do it. Then every year there'd be the fifth grade, the big play would be. One year it was kind of Beauty and the Beast, and I played the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, and then so there was always. The theater classes were there. It wasn't like they were teaching anything about like acting technique per se, but it was just getting kids up in front of an audience and having them learn lines and getting them used to it. And some people really liked it and some people didn't. You know what I mean? It was very, but it was certainly, and I've seen that in other schools. I mean, that I think that still pretty much exists, I would assume.
I know, so it's important for creativity, imagination, kids playing with each other, using that different side of the brain, even if it's not your thing. I think it's really important. Yeah. I only really had it like for us year 7 onwards. And then in my original school, I don't think we had anything like that. Maybe it's just the schools I went to.
Year 7 onwards being like 7th grade would that
grade,
be 7th grade? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So before that, you didn't really have any theater in the schools?
Not that I can imagine. Not music, that I can think of.
Because you're singing, music, chorus, choral singing. Surely you had some sort of.
You could externally join the school plays, but you'd have to, I think, maybe audition, but you wouldn't have any classes or anything. I played guitar.
Like school choir. You weren't. You play guitar.
I did then, but that was external through the school, so I could then maybe audition for the school band. And I think I didn't do anything other like creative. I only discovered it out after school, which I'm disappointed in. But actually, I would. Just while this speaks to mind, this could be ridiculous, but I think this is hilarious. I always wondered when they get kids to play like Beauty and the Beast. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to be the beauty. And they're like, no, Brennan, you're going to be the beauty. You're going to be the beast. Like, how does that conversation happen? I know they give you a costume.
Thrilled, man. No, I was thrilled. It was a cool part. I got to be like, it was fun. I didn't take it. I got to wear like a mask and makeup and like all this big wig, and it was a big thing. And it was before the Beauty and the Beast had come out in Disney. The Disney Beauty and the Beast hadn't happened yet, so it was kind of a variation of the old, just the old story. And no, I was into it. And Stephanie Bell, if memory serves, lovely young woman named Stephanie Bell was playing Beauty, and she was so nice, and she was a really good pal. Like, I think we were in 5th grade, so we were like 10 or 11, and she was awesome. We had a great time, and no, there wasn't anything like, oh, I don't want the Beast is the, I mean, that's the juicy part, man. Yeah. I got to fall in love and sang songs and did a makeup change, and yeah, no, we had a good. And Stephanie was cool. I was with my buddy Stephanie, and we had a great time.
I've always wondered, because in one of my scripts, this is for the joke, I'm not criticizing anyone, but there's a joke where I have one of the characters, she looks nothing like her Tinder profile, and she's meant to be very beautiful in the Tinder profile, then not very beautiful. And so how do you I want to get this script made. How do I cast someone being like, obviously you might put pillows or make them look a bit bigger, but how do you go, you are right for this role and it's meant to be very bland, boring looking, blah, 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 blah. How does those conversations happen?
And there's a great tradition of great performances being done by actors and actresses who are supposed to be the plain.
Oh, but they just put their hair back or put glasses on, and they look exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know. Yeah, any actor. I mean, God, yeah, that's always tough. It's very. I mean, look, there's nothing about being an actor that isn't humiliating. So they've got to. If it's a good part that you've written for them, I'm sure they're going to be happy to do it. And then yeah.
I hope so. But you mentioned humiliated. Is there any stories that spring to mind? I'm sure, in theater, for example, we'll build up to it as well. Just while this springs to mind, you're doing a big tour run, for example, so many different shows. Sometimes maybe you get into autopilot. Have you ever had moments where you've forgotten your lines or you don't know what to do next, or have you always been very grounded?
Oh, sure. I mean, thousands of, oh my God. Yeah, so many times. I don't often go up meaning forget lines. I haven't had a lot of that happen. One time it happened, though. I can tell you exactly the first and worst, and still probably the worst that's ever happened, just in terms of personally making me feel so sick, was I was playing at that regional theater, the American Theater Company. I was playing Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island. Treasure Island is the story about the young boy who goes off with pirates, and Robert Louis Stevenson. And we did not, for that show, they didn't have a live orchestra. They had orchestra tape, so it was a taped performance by the orchestra. So once the tape starts, you're locked into that. And I had a solo, and it was a big emotional solo. And one show I was 11 years old, and it was a big professional production. We did I think we did 2 months, a 2-month run, which for me was a huge deal. And one night, and I remember it was the night it was a matinee performance, and because my brother was in the audience and my mom were in the audience, they came to see it. They'd already seen it many times, but they came by to see that show. And I got off, I sang the wrong verse. I inverted the verses, and so the music didn't match up. So I started the wrong verse, and I couldn't correct it because there was no live orchestra to go with it. And my brother leaned over to my brother was however old he was, 9. And he was like, Mom, he sang the wrong. He knew all the words to everything. And I just remember that feeling of, oh Christ, I've just screwed up. And hundreds of adults are looking at me and they know I've messed up. And it was brutal. And it was, that was very formative, because that feeling of of just something, it was formative in a good and a bad way, because it made me really obsessive about lines. But it also made me I remember being like, that can never happen again. And of course it happens again. That kind of thing happens all the time in live performance. But I was very perfectionistic and very driven as a young kid. I mean, I wanted to do really well, and that was, I just remember that sick feeling in my stomach when I realized, oh shit, I'm singing the wrong thing, because it was like the 50th time we'd done it, and I just spaced out for 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, that concentration has to be there every minute, and I was however old, 11 or 12.
So that's a positive skill to get from that. So now, like when you're on set, are you able? I know there's like, sometimes we learn from these very traumatic experiences. Sometimes we don't, but that's life. But it seems that you've been able to apply that with your lines being present. Do you think that taught you to be like really present on set or with people now?
That particular experience, no. No. I think if anything, I've had to unlearn a lot of that feeling of that initial 11-year-old feeling of terror at something going wrong. I've had to unlearn the feel. I've had to be like, fuck it, we can get sloppy. Who cares? I can make mistakes. I give a shit. Not
Cool.
about being present. I want to be present for my fellow actor.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to know my lines. I don't want to be, I'm not saying I'm not going to be prepared, but I have to be relaxed within that preparation. And that's been a lifetime of reaching that level of being like completely, whatever happens, happens. I know I've done the preparation and know the things I need to know. And then I just let it go. And I'm not trying to muscle. I think if anything, those initial experiences on stage as a young performer, there are good and bad things to learn from them. And one of the bad things was that I began to be wanted to get it right.
Yeah.
Like any kid, you want to do a good job. You want to get it right. You always want to be, you don't want to mess up. You don't want to do, and I got out of that pretty quickly, but it's still a lifetime of that, of just being completely present. There's a real difference between being present and trying to get it right. Being
Yes.
present is not worrying about whether or not you're getting it right. Being present is just listening, talking and listening to the other person,
Yeah.
or to whatever the situation is, and just behaving naturally. So getting to that place of relaxation has been a lifelong struggle since that one time that I got on the wrong verse in Treasure Island. We've traced it.
But so can you tell me about that? Because that's mastery. That's a life skill. I don't know if we ever hit it fully, but that's almost, how I see it. I don't know if you look at life this way, but I'll be interested to hear your take where, sometimes we have like a traumatic experience, because that was a traumatic experience, and that can push us in a different direction. We can come from fear, but then having had that experience, we can really dissect, and then it can improve us in the long term, because it makes us realize, what are we doing right or what are we doing wrong, inverted commas. So what made you look into that experience? Were you fully consciously aware of it, or is this through deep diving of your brain? Or
At the time, I wasn't aware. You mean when I was 11? Was I aware that this was a formative experience and that
no, you wouldn't have realized when you're 11, but maybe later on in life, and you're like, maybe it didn't go exactly how you wanted to, and then
it became more apparent as I got to work, as I worked more and I got more experience, and I got particularly at drama school. Drama school was a good really good way of doing that, because the best thing about drama school is that you do just a shit ton of plays all at once, and so you're doing everything all at once, and you're working on your profession continually all day long, and I with good teachers. And I began to notice a real tendency in myself to not be. I had a wonderful acting teacher named Evan Yanulis, and she was at the Yale School of Drama, and she's lovely and really very, very perceptive and kind. A lot of those teachers were really
that's
bright.
rare. Just as a side point, I've heard that not always all the teachers, especially at college level, obviously there's good ones and bad ones.
Well, this is grad school. Yale School of Drama is the master's program here in the States. So, and yes, there are certainly, some of them are not great. Not every teacher at any great institution is great, certainly. We can have a whole conversation about that because I went to Yale College for undergrad and then went to Yale Drama School for grad school. And anyway, that's a whole different
Yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
the reason I went to drama school, I mean, getting into drama school was the reason I wanted to go to Yale is because of its reputation, and that reputation was by and large deserved. You know, it's where Meryl Streep went, and it's where you hear all the, you know. And sure, there's good and bad teachers within that, but as an aggregate, most of the instruction was really, really good, and they're at least they care very deeply. And the school when I went there was going through a transition. Earl Gister was kind of the guru, and he had some personal problems. I studied with him for about a year, but then he left. But then Evan came in to take over for him, and I knew her from a while back. I'd known her randomly. I just got taught by her. I was taught by her early before I went to drama school. Anyway, Evan said something to me which was very helpful. She said, you need to get loosey goosey. You know what I mean? You need to be loosey goosey and relax and just stay as. Yeah. And it was one of those things where it was just kind of a little aha moment where I'm like, oh, right, I do need to do that. I think, cool. And I noticed it throughout my life, even in kind of late high school, I started to get serious about acting. And then in New York City, when I was struggling to start a career, I noticed I wasn't auditioning with as much relaxation as I wanted to. And then in drama school, when I went back to drama school, that's when I really started addressing that need to be correct or good or, you know, to not mess up. And that began to be, I was seeing that as a hindrance. On the one hand, you want to be very driven to be prepared, know what you need to know. You have to work very hard, but that work has to be done in the right way.
Yeah.
So you maintain that sense of relaxation and spontaneity and freedom and fluidity in the moment that you're working.
That's brilliant.
You know, that was in drama school. I really began to address it. And so, yes, in hindsight, then in drama school, I was like, yeah, I've been doing that since I was a kid actor. And yeah, I picked up some bad habits when I was a kid actor. You know, when you're a kid actor, people don't know what to say to you. They're like, just be energized. You got to be energetic. You got to make things big. You know, you just do all the shitty things to get like, I'm surprised. I'm sad. You make faces and you need energy. We need energy. It's like, no, that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing. But so I had to unlearn all of those old muscle memory stuff, including when I forgot when I got the verses mixed up in that.
That's brilliant self-awareness, and I'm glad you did that. So were you more able to enjoy and play and have fun? Because when you get into something like this, as opposed to accounting, you're doing it because it's fun for you. So were you able to, you know?
Well, some people have fun with numbers. Now, come on.
That's true. That's true.
And I envy those people.
Yeah, because I have a friend like that. He loves it.
Their jobs make sense. Mine doesn't. But yes, it certainly makes. Yeah, I mean, you get tastes of that throughout performing, right? I'm sure you've had the feeling being on stage, right? When you just feel that kind of flow state happens. And
with improv, it's happened very few times. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel it with improv for sure. And improv is one of the best places to find it because it's kind of immediately accessible because everything's just literally happening in the moment, you know? Yeah. So it's like, and I remember achieving that sense of flow.
Cool.
First time was maybe in college, doing a John Patrick Shanley play in college, where it was suddenly like just this a random show. Was it Danny and the Deep Blue Sea? I can't remember the name of it. John Patrick Shanley is a playwright. He wrote Moonstruck and Doubt. Anyway, it was a 3-person play. I think it was Danny and the Deep Blue Sea. Maybe I'm getting my titles mixed up. Anyway, I was playing one of the characters, and it's a 1-act and small theater, just suddenly it was like this transcendent experience, and I didn't really know why. And so for years, I tried to recapture that.
Yeah, it's like a
And
drug.
yeah, but it's so ironic, as in so much in life, is when you let go of the drive, the sense of control, and having to control every moment. And I think that was one of my biggest problems as an actor, was trying to control every moment, which again, I really did pick that up as a young actor, of like having to always wanting to be exact, to know exactly what was happening and be very clear and like, no, just let it fly a little bit more. Even doing Shakespeare, which is extremely structured, there are many rhythmic parameters that you have to, work within, and a lot of context, but even within that very tight framework is great freedom and learning how to relax. And that's when those sense of flow then became more accessible.
Oh,
From that.
okay. I've got a lot of questions. This reminds me, and I'm not comparing. I play basketball at the lowest level, and very occasionally as well.
Okay, hold on. You play what now?
Basketball, just
Oh, basketball.
yeah,
You were using the Australian pronunciation.
basketball, mate.
I was like, basketball.
And sometimes, I'm not the most athletic person, but sometimes I'll do something and then I'm just completely, it's like an out of body experience, and the ball goes in the hoop. And then I'll come back in my body, look around and be like, what just happened? And it's all I can't, I'm sure you can describe it a bit better than me. It just feels like this out of body moment. I'm fully in flow. And then I literally just look at my hands, I'm like, that was like, did you use the word like transcended? Something happened there. And now it's happening a little bit more. I'm still terrible, don't get me wrong. But when those moments happen,
you're better than me, man. I suck at basketball, so I envy you. The fact that
I'm
you
talking
can
about
get
for the flow aspect.
yeah, that's great. That's really great. Yes, it's very similar to where you're not thinking something just happens. You're not like, okay, I'm going to move my hand and put the ball through the hoop at this angle. No, it just happens. Yeah.
And it's this out of body experience, but it makes me feel, I know this is going to sound ridiculous because I've also had the improv experience doing this, but it makes me feel more connected to myself. And I know how it's going to sound. It feels like an elevation of consciousness, even though if it's just for a tiny moment, it just feels like everything's connected. And I'm like, what has happened to me? It's like this.
No, that's exactly right. There's nothing. No, that's a very well documented thing. That's a real thing that happens, and it's something that it got really flow as a concept kind of came into vogue. I remember maybe in the 90s it started really, and it was suddenly everybody started talking about it. And now it's about being in the moment or being present. People also use that. None of which I'm denigrating. I practiced meditation for decades, so I believe in that very wholeheartedly. But I think that flow state is something that's very real, and you feel very, everything feels effortless. Everything feels like, but the tricky thing about it is that you can't chase it in the way that you would think. You chase it by the way you can't muscle it. You can't force it to happen. You do all the prep for it. But then if you're chasing it and trying to get it to happen, it won't happen because you're immediately judging everything that's happening. It's only when you don't chase it that it actually comes. So I've found, particularly in my work, that the more I go, fuck it. Once I've done my work, because I'll do all the prep, and I will know
everything that you need to know.
First actions, my first beats, my objective, my obstacles, what's the object of my behavior, what are the given circumstances, what are all of these, actory terms, but then once I do that, I have to fucking go, fuck it. Just do not even think about it. Just have fun, go out there and see what happens. Kind of, see what happens. The more I go, let's just give it a whirl. And then things start, and then pay attention to what's actually happening in the actual moment. I'm not quite sure how that would, for your basketball, it'd just be like, you've done your work, you've done your practice, you've practiced your shots, you've practiced your positioning, worked on your hands, you've dribbled, you've done. And then you just go out and kind of have a pickup game and see how it goes and kind of deal with what's in front of your face. And I think dealing with what's in front of your face is where that begins to build on itself. You know what I mean? You're like, you get the ball and then you're just going to kind of take it one moment at a time, stay very present, but don't try to make a flow state happen.
I know every time that experience has happened from a basketball point of view, I go, oh my God, that happened. Then I get out of it. But with the improv, if I can hold on to it, then it's a lot better. It's a different can of worms. So, okay, I want to talk about meditation in a sec. How are you now that, you talked about, being an introvert, doing the work, knowing your lines really well, but also having that, whatever happens. How are you in the audition room?
I used to be miserable. I used to be not miserable, but auditioning is just awful. So when I went to undergrad, and got a college degree and didn't know why I was there. It was very important for my parents that I went to a good college. Understandably so, because my dad was not able to. My dad got into a very good college, but his parents couldn't afford to pay for it. They couldn't get loans. So my dad was in the very fortunate position of being able to pay for my undergraduate career, graduate education, and understandably so. That was extremely important to him. I know why they made me do that, but I'd been offered. Frank Torok had been a instructor of mine who ran the California Arts Institute. He offered me, it was like Juilliard, the same kind of thing, where it's just you don't have to, it's not college, it's a arts program, where you would get a 4-year arts program. Yeah. My parents did not want me doing that. They wanted me going to a liberal arts college and getting a real degree. So I did that and was miserable, muddled my way through, moved to New York City, didn't know anyone, and just started auditioning just for anything and trying to get an agent and struggling through that and not knowing, just the horrible dark years. And I didn't know really what I was doing auditioning. I was trying to be good. I was trying to be right for the part, trying to be whatever they wanted me to be, wondering what they wanted me to be, dreading preparing for it, not preparing well for it because of the dread for it, being afraid of it, not wanting to, just there's horrible patterns. And auditioning is just, in the best of circumstances, is just, truly terrible. But then I started learning how to audition, went back to grad school.
Okay. Yeah.
Then started to, having gone to grad school, but then also worked with the teachers in New York, that I specifically one acting teacher named Tim Phillips. There are a number of horrible acting teachers, but Tim taught a really good audition course where he would teach you. It was specifically about auditioning, and more than auditioning, it was specifically for on-camera auditioning, which I was terrified of. So once I began to have a system in place, like a procedure that I could concentrate on, as opposed to just trying to get the part, which is death when you're auditioning for something.
Yeah, and I can sense it as well.
Of course, yeah, of course. And it's all about just getting the attention off of your own fear and yourself and just being self-absorbed and just getting it onto the person that you're acting. What do I want from the person I'm acting with? That's the basic. That's Stanislavski. It's just all really about what do I want and what am I doing to get what I want, and how am I trying to make the other person feel in order to get what I want.
Yeah.
So just kind of having even a basic system of what to do in the audition room. I wrote it down. I would write down, because I was terrible. So terrified. And as a young, 22, 23 was horrible, because I had I looked like I was 40 even though I was 22, and I sounded like this even though I was 22. I didn't seem like Beverly Hills 90210 was the big show, and that's not what you're getting when you get. So I knew enough
for
about
most people as well. Sorry for interjecting. Most people don't look like all of those gorgeous models with the guys and the girls.
A lot of people in the entertainment industry do, however, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The people that get those jobs, they do look like that.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. So, and at least I had the wherewithal, even in my early to mid 20s, to know that I wasn't really going to start working until I was in my probably early to mid 30s. And that was going to be when I would start to kind of I knew I was going to work more as I got older
Yep.
because that was my type.
Yep.
Character actor, probably going to play, I knew off the bat, it's like FBI guy or doctor or lawyer, you know what I mean? It's like, so I knew that I was going to I might have shots at those roles. So I knew I had to just kind of I had to be patient and keep clawing my way through it, and persevere if I could hold on. And so that was another reason I went back to drama school. It's like, well, if I'm going to be in my mid 20s, I might as well do a shit ton of plays. And I did that. It was great to do that. Like, 60 plays in 3 years or whatever.
Whoa.
It was. Yeah, it was a lot of them. We would do like 3 plays at once. Like I was doing, I was playing Richard III, and then I was playing the Misanthrope at the same time. You're doing things in rep, and then you're doing another show at the cabaret, the student cabaret at night. So you'd be doing like 3 plays at once. It was really a repertory kind of thing where you're just like constantly doing multiple plays. And I thrived in that. I loved it. But it also gave me some tools for when I go into an audition. At least I'm not trying to get the part. I'm trying to just play this guy. I'm just trying to be this person for a little while. And I think that sort of mindset of like, it's not about getting the part. It's about being this person for a bit. And being as true to that person as I can. And being as true to this circumstances as I can. And then that's all I'm doing. And if you like it, great. If you don't, great. Because there's got to be a sort of ballsy thing of where you're like, fuck it, I don't care. If I'm not right for the role. No, not even drop the mic, but it's more just like, fuck it. Okay, either you like me or you don't. You don't want to be an asshole. You just want to be like, okay, I'm going to do a good job doing what I'm doing. And if you like it, great. If you don't, great. You wanted to go in a different direction, okay. It's easy to get too kind of defensive and angry, like fuck it, this is me.
Correction.
That doesn't help anyone.
That's even worse.
But kind of makes you vaguely pissed off.
I agree, and I love that mindset shift as well, because it's not you being like, well, I'm the best actor in the world. It's being like, I've done a good job. It might not fit your vision, and that's fine. At least I can act. I've put in the work. I've done my job. But after that, I'm not going to think about it. If I get the call, that's great. Very rare. That's a whole journey there, and I want to talk about this awareness as well, because you said you moved to New York. Sounds like you didn't really have a support system there as well. You didn't know anyone, I think is what you said, which is already crazy. You're doing something that you love. You're coming from a lot of fear as well. You recognize the potential typecasting nature of the industry. I'm also surprised that you had that awareness where you'd realize you'd be working a lot more, potentially in your 30s. What made you keep going? You could have, inverted commas, got a real job, whatever that is, done that and then go, okay, I'm going to do it in my 30s, and then never actually do it in your 30s. What was that driving factor?
Sheer desperation and stupidity. I just didn't know what else to do. I didn't have anything else I could do. You know what I mean? I couldn't have done anything else. And I didn't know. I did jobs to make money for sure. Oh my God. I had to survive. So I did money jobs, absolutely, and did crazy theater thing. Like, I remember one thing I did, like a role playing, like it was a murder mystery, but it was like they would bring a company out to a mansion and have it be like we'd pretend to do a murder mystery in front of them. It was like a corporate getaway. Yeah. I don't even, this whatever, car insurance company, everybody would get hammered and completely wasted and start yelling at us. And I think he did that. And oh my God, there were a number of jobs that I'm not very proud of. A lot of student films, like for no money, a lot of plays for no money, just workshops for no money.
But going back to that is like, as you said, you went back to school and that helps your growth as an actor. You're learning skills from that. So that's still a brilliant shift, especially from where, you were first starting out. So that's like all part of it as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the only thing that kept me going was just sheer determination and sheer like, I knew I wasn't going to be particularly happy doing anything else. And I knew I wasn't particularly good at anything else. You know what I mean? I was a philosophy major when I was in undergrad, and I knew I didn't want any part of an academic, I didn't want an academic career. I didn't want to write. I didn't want to, a life in academia wasn't for me. And based on people I knew who were in finance or other jobs, I didn't know. I thought about doing physical labor. I worked on a construction crew for a while, and that was that was like, all right, I could this at least has some value and some worth, and I had a friend who worked in Brooklyn in a construction company, and I would like moonlight with him and help them out. So that was good work, but I never but I kept at it. I just didn't want to do anything else with my life. So I just put my head down and said, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to try to do this.
That's so rare because especially, money's a huge stress, obviously. But then when you want to do something and it might not be happening as fast, it can kind of cause us, because I'm the same with screenwriting. I've got all these screenplays out, which we'll talk about the meditation side. But then when things aren't happening as fast as you want them to, that can kind of cause a bit of like craziness within us. And you still kept on going. Was there ever a moment where you're like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore? Or you just knew within, I'm going to do it, it's going to be a bit of a slug?
No, I knew it was going to be a slog, and I just kind of kept at it. And I knew that I believed in my innate ability enough, and I believed that I was trying hard enough that my efforts were, well, I'm just saying, I think about how to put this.
Being noticed?
No, I mean, yeah, sure. No, it's like, I believed in the work that I was doing privately on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I knew I was trying to be a good actor, and I knew I could be a good actor for my own, in my own mind. You know what I mean? I had a ways to go to do the work that I wanted to do, and I thought I could do it. It wasn't about recognition. It wasn't about even, particularly even getting the job. It was about doing work that I thought was good and being able to inhabit something truthfully as an actor. And I felt like I was kind of working towards that, and that I was getting to a point where I could almost, and I wanted that more than anything else. I wanted that more than the job itself. Like, I wanted that even if it was in a class, even if it was like, I just wanted to know what that was like on stage, even if it was in a play that wasn't paying me very much. Do you know what I mean? It didn't have to be commercial. It wasn't about making money. It wasn't about making the money. It was about doing something well as I define it. Do you know what I mean? Defining what I wanted to do, and knew I hadn't achieved it, but I was getting a taste of it. Does that make sense?
Yes. It sounds like also like with the success, like changing the the goalposts about what can I do in this moment. There's a lot of things that I don't have control over, but how can I feel? How can I perform? What's the best that I can do to my ability?
Yeah, it was really about like literally like just having truthful moments as an actor. I knew I was getting to there, and I could sense it even at going to classes in New York. Even before going back to grad school, I was like, I'm on the cusp, so I'm about to get someplace with my
That's
work.
Great self-awareness.
Right, but I guess, I mean, it was what I was choosing to do with my life, so I was focused on it. But I wasn't like, it wasn't like I had to get a Broadway show or a television show or anything in particular. It was more just like I needed to know that I could have a truthful moment as an actor. You know what I mean? That I could inhabit a role truthfully, without a lot of bullshit on top of it. That really was the drive. That's what, honestly, that's what kept me in it more than getting on, Law and Order or whatever. You know what I mean? I wanted those things, and they seemed like absolutely unattainable when I was nowhere, doing nothing with no one. Being on TV seemed like the furthest thing away, but I just wanted to try to be just have some truthful moments as a performer.
See, that's really awesome to hear because we lie to ourselves all the time. I do it. Everyone does that. We can kind of make excuses for ourselves or not think about that and, kind of have a warped perspective of what success is for ourselves. But for you to be able to, despite all, potentially the chaos, the mind games, the chitter chatter, to go back to that during all of that, that is someone, I don't even know how to explain that. Like, yes, you love it, but it's like you're a purist in its most natural form. It's about how, like,
So I think you know what it is too. Honestly, it's that the entertainment industry is not a place where you can rely on anything.
Yeah.
It's not a meritocracy. This business is not fair in any way.
Yeah.
So the only thing I have control over is what I'm doing, my work. And I mean, I hate oh my God, I'm actually doing it in an interview. I'm saying,
no, you're doing great.
The work, but I mean, but all I have control over is my work, and how I define success would be, am I able to fulfill this role as truthfully as I possibly can, no matter what it is, if it's a Shakespeare part, if it's a comedic part, if it's a 3-line walk-on of exposition in a Law and Order show, if it's the lead role in a independent film, if it's anything, if it's bad guy, good guy, whatever, can I do that as honestly and organically and as in a relaxed a way as I can? That's all I'm trying to do.
Yep.
In terms of whether I'm trying to get an Emmy Award or an VH1 Artist of the Year, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who cares? There's no way to control that. I don't have that drive, and I don't have that kind of drive to be like, I want this award or I want that. I feel like that would just be setting myself up for a lifetime of eating my heart out, to be like, well, if I don't, I certainly have goals professionally that I want, and I certainly want to make money, and I want, all of the things that we all want. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I can't gauge how I see my life as if, in terms of external validation, it's so dangerous to do that. And I had enough time struggling as an actor to see how external validation means nothing. People who use that as their measuring stick have a lifetime of misery. You just see it. People who are insatiable for some sort of validation that they're never going to get, ever.
I like how you're all about looking in and not externally. When does meditation come into the picture? Has that helped with this, or you've always been?
Yeah, very much. Very much. It's helped because getting out of college, when I moved to New York, the biggest thing I did was move to New York City after college. A period of great uncertainty and great fear. I got sober and I started meditating.
Oh, okay.
So those are the two foundational things for me that I did, and went to therapy. So scrambled to get enough money for therapy. And then the other two didn't cost anything. So those were kind of the three foundations that I kind of knew I had to build on. Were those things.
I love your self-awareness. I know you're very humble, but especially at such a young age. You look at me funny. No, you're too humble. But anyway, we'll probably have to do a part 2 on this. Did you do a program, or did you just decide one day to become sober? Yeah.
I did a program, and it's something that I don't really. I've never talked about it very much, but if this podcast is about people dealing with adversity and trying to, I don't know, to find success or failure or whatever, I think that's, there can be no personal quote unquote success or failure without dealing with those issues, without dealing with those personal things. So I just did, and those are things that I needed to, and I'm not comfortable talking about any of them in particular. I mean, it's not that it's that if you talk about them too much, I tend to start bullshitting about them, or I tend to start sounding like I'm an expert on something, and I'm really not.
You're an
I just
expert on yourself.
man, not even that. God. But yeah, for me, just getting sober and then getting some kind of meditation practice, which I'm not perfect at by any means, but
No
it's
one
been
is.
kind of constant. Yeah, right. I know no one is. And it's such a pain in the ass. It's really hard to do, and I go through periods of like, it's been decades now. And it's like, well, sometimes I feel, oh, I'm making good steps. And other times I'm like, I'm actually not achieving anything at all, but I am. And it's become a really important, I'm achieving something in terms of, it's just become a part of my life that
Yeah.
I value very highly. And it's not that I think everybody has to meditate. Not for other people. Some people do it by any
It could be a
number of ways.
walk. It can be
Yeah, it could be a
walk in
walk.
nature.
It could be
Yeah.
working out. It could be playing
Yoga.
basketball. It could be anything. You know what I mean? So there's not one way to do any of this. Likewise for sobriety, people can handle drinking and enjoy it. And I envy that. That's fantastic. I'm not against people drinking if they are comfortable with it. My God, I envy you. Have a great time. Go out and party.
Yeah.
So for me, meditation, like a certain kind of just sitting meditation is kind of the thing I gravitated towards, but it can be anything, that people
That's what
do.
I do. I've been
Yeah, right.
I've been meditating probably for a decade now, and it's
great.
been a life changer as well. Talking about flow, for example. I've written a lot of scripts from meditation, and each time I'm like, give me more, then it doesn't happen. I'm writing a new script from it, and meditation has been a life changer game changer in so many aspects. And
Oh, it's so good.
it's just,
Yeah, it's good, right?
we can talk about this for ages, but just,
You find it difficult? Do you find it difficult to do? Is it still day to day? Is it sometimes hard to get your ass down and sit down and do it, or does it go in and out?
I do it the first thing because I know me. When I wake up, that's the first thing I do. So it's just become a habit. I've only missed in literally, it might be 10 years, it might be 9 years, I'm not sure. I haven't cared, 8 years, 11 years, who cares? And I've only missed like,
after we hang up, I'll look in
and I probably have only missed like 3 days because I make sure it's the first thing I do every single morning. But if I did it in the afternoon, then I know myself I wouldn't be able to do it. And just last thing on sobriety. Thank you. I know it's not necessarily maybe the most comfortable thing to talk about. We talk about it a lot on the podcast.
I know you do. I know. That's why I bring it up, is because a lot of people have talked about it. So I'm like, all right. And it's not something I want to be overly precious about or overly like, I'm certainly not the only person dealing with that particular issue, So yes, carry on. What's your question? Sorry.
I'll give you, no, I'll just say one, thank you for bringing it up. Two, it's really important. We all have, stuff in the past, in the present, will happen in the future. It's very important. But what I love about people that have gone through a program is, the sense of connection generally with themselves. Meditation's a bonus as well. Is there anything that, that experience, I know we can talk about this for hours, but is there anything that springs to mind that's taught you about, maybe your connection with yourself?
In terms of meditation or in terms of getting sober?
In terms of like the program and, the connection with yourself. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, sure. All of it. Yeah. I mean, the answer is yes. I mean, yeah. I'm going to answer in the affirmative.
Yep.
I think that, I mean, there's no other, I couldn't do anything without being sober. So, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just sort of I wouldn't have anything in my life that would be, that I could hold on to at all without, I wouldn't have my family. I wouldn't have, the things that are most nearest and dearest to me. So it's given me it's given me the opportunity to have a beautiful family who I love and adore. So there's no, I mean, that has nothing to do. I mean, sure, it helps. I guess it helps my acting or whatever, or my career. So I certainly wouldn't be able to hold down a job if I were, active.
Yeah.
And I read all these stories about like Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole and, Richard Harris and the great boozers of, the English theater tradition. And I'm like, man, I envy those motherfuckers. that, I mean, being able to get blasted off my face and go do, play Love's Labor's Lost, and then, drive to the coast and in a, in a convertible old car and with 9 gallons of bourbon and dance in the moonlight and then go back and play another great Shakespearean role. I envy that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I've done it. I don't know how.
When I used to drink, I don't drink anymore, but I might have a sip to remind myself that I hate it. I never liked it. Just, being,
Okay.
a young person going out and all of that stuff. But it's going to sound ridiculous. My hangovers I would get brain fog for the entire week. I'd go to gym. I wouldn't be able to lift as much. I felt so horrible. And everyone's like, oh, it's just a hangover. I'm like, no, this is impacting me at a much deeper level. And so one of the many reasons.
Your metabolism just doesn't want to do, your metabolism didn't want to deal with it. That's your chemistry.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I would have had, is it liver or kidneys? I'm getting them mixed up. I sound like an idiot, but it was definitely impacting at our
liver.
Yeah. But anyway, I appreciate that. Just while this
not good for your kidneys either, but your liver would be the first.
Yeah.
The first.
I'm pretty sure I had a test at one stage because I was drinking a lot. I was, going to Thailand, doing the full moon parties, going clubbing all the time. Yeah, I used to, I don't know if I've ever spoken about this. I used to be a club promoter. It's a bit different here than it is in America. Okay. A lot of people are surprised by that. And I would do it just because I get free drinks and free entry because I was going so much. So I would just, pretend, I'd go with my friends, do that, and then it would just support my lifestyle of being very unhealthy. But
I completely understand, my friend. Wow. Yep. I envy that time. That sounds like a blast.
It was at the time, but now I look back at it and go, well, actually probably wasn't worth it. But anyway, that's with age. Just while we're talking about, because I want to wrap up, you're talking about your view of success and how it's changed. And when you were first in New York, you didn't necessarily think you could get the law and the orders and all of these different jobs. You said they weren't necessarily attainable. When you realized that these jobs were attainable, has that made you shift, your mindset or view of what you can achieve or your view of success?
Not my view of success, just in terms, but it did shift my mind about working on camera. I mean, I made a really concerted effort after graduating from grad school and getting, going to grad school was great because I knew why I was there and I wanted to be there, studied for 3 years, came out of that, knew what I wanted to do in New York. I wasn't, I was still relatively young and beginning to hit my castable stride. So I was like, okay, well, I want to make money, and that means working in film or TV. So let's try and do that. So that was definitely a goal. I remember the first couple of times, God, and again, but it's all a learning experience. Like I think my first job right out of school, it might have been Law and Order. Everybody's first job out of grad school is Law and Order, and I think I did like 2 lines on Law and Order, like as a crime tech.
Oh, cool.
And I was so terrified, and just being in front of the camera was like, what the fuck is this? And then, then learning how to act on camera became a whole thing, and that became like the same kind of thing as that version of success, how that we were talking about pursuing, being good, then being truthful on camera was the how to even take it more to the point where I wasn't acting at all. I wanted it to be as inhabited and
cool.
Not minimalist, but just not performative and not trying, take my foot off the gas as an actor, so they let the camera do the work. All of that took years of getting used to through the course of working. And I was luckily able to sort of learn on the job. And I got very lucky doing a series of commercials.
Oh, is this the orange?
Yes.
Ones? Yeah. I saw them. That were great.
Exactly. Orange cellular. Yeah. So those were the orange. That's impressive that you even know about that. They were the orange gold spots, and we shot them. I just auditioned for them randomly. They weren't even supposed to be a big series, but it was a series of. They were going to shoot 3 of them, and then it just turned into like 8 years of work, which was
wow.
Yeah, it became very much like that was really the way I learned to relax in front of a camera, was doing those shots, because those shoots, because uh the reason I got the job is because I could just improv, with which I'd always been able to do from stage stuff, and
Yeah.
like Harold, and like, all of the, basic improv training. And so then I would just improv. They would bring celebrities on, so I'd improv all my lines. They would give the celebrities the lines of, like, so the first one was like Spike Lee and Carrie Fisher and
That's crazy.
Alan Cumming and I had such a great time working together. And I would just, their lines would kind of be set, and then I just improv whatever I was saying. You know what I mean? So they just let Brendan do his thing. It kind of turned into that over the years, and that became my way of relaxing in front of a camera and being like, having that sense of, oh fuck it, I can do whatever I want, and I don't have to try to be perfect, and I don't have to worry about the size of my performance, and I can also learn about what different camera sizes were and how close they are, far away, just lenses, shot selection, all of that stuff, and
All in
then
that.
how to
Yeah.
adjust the performance within that. That was really the kind of on the job training that you don't get when you're doing a guest spot on, you know, whatever, the Max Bickford show that Richard Dreyfuss did that I was on, or, I'd have these 2 or 3 scenes as a guest spot, but there's no time, and it's very difficult as a guest performer to do that.
And that was one of my questions. I think it's very important for people to realize that, sometimes when you're on these shows, this is your mark, say your lines, and then leave. And, it could also be intimidating because you don't know anyone that's a well-established cast, or you don't quite know the vibe.
Yeah.
And then
And that's something I'm very aware of whenever guest performers come on Chicago Med or anything that I'm on, but particularly Chicago Med, because there are guest performers on all the time, and it's like how hard it is to do that, and how it's like it's an incredibly inhospitable place, and different places are different sets are different.
Yeah.
And on most of the shows I've been on, people try to make people feel welcome and comfortable and whatever.
Great.
But yeah, there's no, you just do your thing. You just say your lines and get the performance out, and let's move on, or cry.
I would have found that so intimidating. Someone brought this up on this podcast where I was like, is it like meeting your girlfriend's family for the first time? And he's like, yes, but imagine you don't have a girlfriend and you're meeting a family for the first time. It would be so intimidating. And, as you know better than anyone, the creativity side, if you're coming a bit from fear or you're a bit anxious, it might not bring out the best performance as well. So you're saying hi to someone or introducing can really change the performance and make the person feel more comfortable.
Yeah, just try to make people feel a little, just kind of relaxed, just a little, just take the edge off a little bit. But it's every actor who's been on your show has had to do that.
Yeah, it still blows my mind. It's crazy. And also, just last thing on that, how from the what did you say they were? Because I thought you were known as the Orange Wednesday guy, but what did you say the role was called?
Oh, Orange Wednesday was a promotion role. It was just they were called the Orange Gold Spots. It was Orange Cellular. Orange was the name of the company.
Yeah.
Orange was the big cell phone carrier back in the day, in the early 2000s for the UK. It was like Verizon or AT&T here in the States.
Yeah. I watched a few. Of them, and they were great. And I could tell as well, I was applying the screenwriting lens as well. I'm like, you've definitely done improv here, because there's no way a writer would have, in the most positive way, gotten you to do that, because that's too creative. I was very impressed. And I don't normally talk about the performance side, but I was literally analyzing these with my screenwriting lens, like, this is great. But also, just last point on that, of what the skills that you learnt within yourself from doing having an experience like this. I know you said you were potentially a little bit surprised with, how many, you did for 8 years, and then you'd learned so much within this experience. Probably not the experience you thought you'd learn this much from, as opposed to, being a guest on a big TV show and you learned so much from.
Oh, no. Crazy. Yeah. No, I was grateful for it. I was so grateful for it. Just, financially, it allowed us to, it allowed me to get out of debt from school and buy a loft and buy, live our lives and start a family. And, I mean, it's one of the things that kids now getting out of drama school do not have. It's very rare to see somebody get commercial accounts these days because of the collapse of the commercial industry.
Yeah.
And that was a very lucky one too, because they were extremely famous in England, but then they weren't famous over here. So I didn't get typecast here. It wasn't like I was the Verizon guy. Here in the States, nobody knew about it.
That's the best of all worlds.
It was extremely, it was very lucky. It was just blind luck and serendipity at that. And then it turned into a fun thing to do and make great friends from it. And it's something that I'm very grateful for. And then I worked in the UK a lot. I mean, I did shows over there. I got asked to do a Miss Marple, which is what they
yeah.
And did that for 3 weeks in the UK. Because of that, they were like, let's hire the Orange Cellular guy to come in and
that's
delay
so
the
awesome.
It was so cute. And I got to work with great English actors, and it was great. We had a great time.
Cool. I'm glad that you had that. I reckon what we'll do to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment. So so you get first thing that springs to mind, but you can take your time.
First of all, do you think my cup of tea is big enough? What do you think? I hope your audience on the YouTube.
What do you think?
Okay. All right. Okay. Your thermos is as big as mine. Okay. That's fine. That's perfectly all right. I think we both have nice big thermoses.
We do. You guys don't use the metric system, but how big is yours?
I mean, I don't want to brag. I mean, pretty big.
Oh, not big enough.
I don't even know. You know what? Honestly, in terms of, I could probably look it up.
What I should have said is, well, mine's thicker, but
you're not yours has got a lot of, yours is hefty. It doesn't say. It's do not microwave. I'm not supposed to microwave this metal.
How many people do you think have microwaved where they have to? It's
in America, honestly, you never know.
Do you guys get at the airports and stuff where they say how not to use the toilet and the different signs of like, oh my God. Okay, I want everyone to look this up. When you're in like an Australian airport, they have a sign of how to sit on the toilet and they give you examples of how not to sit on the toilet. I'll send it to you. And it is like,
horrible. Oh my God. Really?
Every angle you think, how can you go to the toilet this way doing a number two? And it is so unbelievably funny. I've seen it at least 100 times, but it's like one doing a Spider-Man against the wall, like lodged with their arms and legs out. I don't even know how you stay against the wall.
Yeah, you're gonna have to post. I've never seen that. That's crazy. I know a lot of my friends are Australian. I need to ask them about this because
I think it's just
also,
ingrained.
let me just say, being American, we can cast no stones in terms of like, I am, for your international audience, please don't think that I'm denigrating anyone from a non-American country because my Lord, but that's funny. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Okay, we'll do. Oh yeah, did it say the?
We had a collection of Canadian signs that we were really appreciating for when we were shooting in Vancouver. We would text each other, and many of them were from our Canadian castmates. And the signage in Canada is pretty spectacular. It's very kind of hyper polite, hyper aware, and slightly passive aggressive, and also apologizing for it.
I'm not surprised. I've got family in Canada, and I know there's like sorry. That's
but then they're very angry at you. They're pissed.
Yeah, that's
all right. Rapid fire, man. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. What are we doing? My God, I'm panicking.
What inspires you?
Oh God. Okay. Great work, great commitment. It could be anything, anybody doing anything really well. Anything. I saw there was first thing that comes to mind is there's a documentary on Criterion called Anselm about the painter Anselm Kiefer, the artist Anselm Kiefer. Anybody listening, go out and watch that. It's on Criterion. You want to see somebody who's dedicated to their craft. Holy shit. So I love watching people do work that they're passionate about. Could be anything. It doesn't have to be acting. Love watching great actors, but I love watching great musicians, great motorcycle racers, great whatever, doesn't matter.
Cool. I won't comment, but that's pretty cool. How do you switch off from the world of acting?
It's just I don't take I just after as much time in the industry now, it doesn't take a lot. I don't even, it's a job. You know what I mean? At this point in my life, it's not like I'm not going to bed going, oh my God, acting. It doesn't take a lot I've gotten much better at that. I think it's being at my advanced stage, I'm able to just sort of forget about it. Also, I forget about a lot of things because I'm old.
We'll agree to disagree. Why do you love baseball?
Oh, okay. Well, man, you've done your research. Okay. The artistry involved, the fact that they have to play 162 games
Yeah.
day in, day out. They have to show up every day. It's not like, oh, once a week they're going to really get their it's everyday grind. It resembles very much aspects of acting where it's a sport that's based on failure. The best hitters fail 70% of the times. The best actors fail at 70% of their auditions at least. So, you keep honing your craft and doing the best you can. Also, they make incredibly difficult things look very easy, which is part of an actor's job, is you're not supposed to notice what they're doing. My job, I'm doing my job if you don't know I'm doing my job. So, so many things about it.
Oh, that's
Love it.
great. I haven't heard a take like that. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
There's so many. We'll have to do a part 2, but I don't even know where to start with The Man in the High Castle. I'll just telling you off air. I think it looks like an amazing production. The writing's amazing. I'll give you a general question. What was it like being part of a show like that?
Really lovely. I made some great friends. Two of my best friends in the world I made on that show.
Cool.
A number of dear people on it. Um, the writing goes up and down in terms of quality. They went through different showrunners and different things. We actually ended up writing a lot of our own material by the end of the 4th season.
No, I noticed the showrunner had I'm not up to that stage yet. And you had different directors every episode, which I'm sure.
Well, that's not unusual. That's not unusual.
Yeah.
But the creatives, there was a lot of chaos behind the scenes. Not behind the scenes in terms of our day-to-day lives on set, but there was a lot. Showrunner changed, EPs changed. Scott Free Productions was kind of the lead on it, and they did a great job of trying to kind of maintain quality. And I really like Scott Free Productions. And Issa Dick Hackett was who's the daughter of Philip K. Dick, who wrote the original show. She was one of the executives on it, and was very dedicated to the quality of it. So we had that going for us. But I think it was it was one of Amazon's first shows. It was their biggest show. Yeah. So they were learning how to do it. And I think there was some chaos that way. So, it was a lot. But I loved the material, and I loved playing that character. I thought that character was really interesting.
You did great as well. And also to give context, because I did notice this, and Amazon, it's a new streaming service at the time. Netflix exists, but we don't have many productions like that. And as you said, it was their big show, New World as well. That I wonder how did you remain sane when you're seeing all of these changes as well?
Again, I mean, when I was doing that show when I was in my 40s, I wasn't just off the block. I'd been through enough ups and downs that I knew enough to not get too sucked into anything. You know what I mean? And I was just going to kind of keep my wits about me. There's a great temptation on TV shows in general, particularly when you're on location and it's just your cast. Things can get very fraught, and very like, oh God, what's happening? Almost like, just a tempest in a teacup kind of thing. But we had enough pros on our shoot, and I had enough close friends that we just didn't really let it affect us too much. Also, we had Alexa Davalos, who was our number one, who is lovely, one of my dear friends, and she extremely supportive. extremely giving and very considerate of other actors. So there wasn't a lot of craziness that way. All the people that I was working with in my scenes were fantastic. So I was able to just sort of, again, just sort of deal with what my job was. I was pretty clear on what my job was, and I would try, but it was a job to handle the stress of, oh, what's happening and what does this mean and whatever. I just have to be, try and stay calm and not let it affect me too much.
Well
As
said.
anyone situation, as anyone on that kind of a show has to do that.
Yeah, I was also, this is just a side point, for a show that would be quite enormous at the time in your streaming world as well. I'm just, having so many different cooks in the kitchen as well that would have been like pulled in different directions. That's like quite a unique experience. This is just more to other people as well, because that's like one of the first,
Yeah.
now it's like somewhat normal, but at the time that's one of the first experiences, so
Yes.
you were a part of it.
Yeah.
What's it like coming back? I think you've been on every season of Chicago Med. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what's it like coming back each season?
I'm about to do it next week. We go in for our first episode. It's
Oh,
great.
cool.
It's fun. They're sweet folks. I've been there since the first episode, and they've been really lovely and have worked around my schedule and let me come in and out and do things with them, and it's great. And it's a fun character. Um, a lot of people watch that show, which
Yeah.
always surprises me. I mean, doesn't surprise me, but I'm always sort of just taken aback by like, oh wow, it's one of the last sort of network shows that's still operating as a network show, and I have a fun time playing that character. Uh, because I'm playing my dad in a lot of respects. Um, he was a surgeon, a little more
Uh,
extreme dad, but so it's fun in that respect. It's kind of sweet that I get to, I'll call him and ask him about pronunciation of a word or something.
ah,
And just
cool.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
on that, I saw one of the clips you posted. I don't know when, but the medical jargon and how you're able to deliver the lines so seamlessly. How the hell do you do that? That is so like medical jargon, or at least from what I've seen, and it
Very
just
sweet.
slips out of your mouth.
There's a lot of it, right? I know. I don't know. I just go back to the hotel room and drill it and drill it and drill it. I just drill it and drill it, drill it. And then the trick is you have to have said it a million times to make it seem like you said it a million times. So there's no real trick. You just have to drill and drill and drill.
I'm impressed. And how many? I know you did a tweet about this a while ago, but do people think you're an actual doctor in real life?
No, there was that one guy who did.
There
Man,
was
I
one
haven't
guy.
tweeted in years. I don't even know. I can't even, does that account still exist?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
he was
yeah.
disappointed. He was a little taken aback that I wasn't a real doctor, but apparently, but no, I don't often get that.
We
I,
so,
just the other day, I was driving here in town and I pulled up, dropping something off at the transfer station, which is the version of the town dump where I was recycling some old lumber. And the guy opened the booth and he was like, "Hey, I love your work on The Sopranos." And I was like, "Thank you. I was not on that show." I didn't say anything. I was like, "Okay." Didn't want to make him feel, he was being so sweet and I didn't know what to say. So I was like, "Thank you." And just,
you
drove
should
off.
have asked what was your favorite episode of mine and why. I'm
I know.
joking.
I know. He was so sweet. And he might have been mixing who knows? I mean, he might have thought I was, just might have mixed up the shows, might have thought I was Michael Imperioli. I don't know. I don't know.
This is just another side comment. I know that I'm the one derailing the rapid fire segment,
No,
but
okay.
one of the our guests on the podcast, he played a hitman or an agent or hitman, whatever.
Yeah.
And I in when we shared the podcast, people were writing like "fuck you" or "don't kill me" or "why did you torture so and so." And I think he gets it in real life as well. But we're not talking about one person. I would assume this is tens of people where they think
Yeah.
he's an actual killer in real life. And I just got a notification yesterday And we released this podcast maybe a year or 2 years ago on the post. And someone was like, fuck you. And I'm like, whoa, what did I do? Then I realized who it was. They were saying it about the actor. I'm like, are you
God,
serious?
that's crazy. Wow,
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, last few. What are you most proud of?
My family.
Next big dream or goal?
Oh God, I want to play double strokes at 120 BPM or 150 BPM
Say
on the
that again.
drums. I want to play
the-
double strokes on the drums on 150 BPM.
so you're a drummer.
I do. Yeah. I play drum and I've done so my whole life, and I've been working on my double strokes. Just going back to that, trying to get them quick.
Cool. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Take deep breaths. Remember to breathe, and envision positive outcomes. Think about something. Think about if you've got something that you're scared of doing but want to do, and think about how it. Don't just think about what might bad. Don't let your mind only travel to the negative. Also think about how it could be a positive, and kind of think about that and ruminate on how positive outcomes could happen from what you're wanting to do, as well as what could go wrong with what you want to do. I'm not good at doing that myself all the time, but I do sometimes try to do that when I'm thinking about something that I'm dreading. It's like, no, hold on. Shit might go wrong in this way, but shit might go right in that way. And so why don't I just kind of maybe just train, just when you notice yourself going to the worst possible outcome for something that you're nervous about, gently remind yourself that the opposite is also possible.
That you are a true meditator. That is brilliant advice. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What's the one question I should have asked you?
Oh, well, no, that's not fair. That would imply criticism of you.
I love positive
I don't
feedback.
have any. No, I think you've asked fantastic questions. You should have asked about the 7 books I've written entitled My Life in Theater by Brennan Brown. No, I just,
I was like, what? Have you written books?
no. Good Lord. No. Not in a million years. No. No, honestly, this has been a blast. I can't think of anything that I would wish you'd ask me about. I again, as someone uncomfortable talking about themselves, I found this extremely painless, and
Cool.
I can't think of anything else that I would have wanted to talk about.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
Google or the Brennan Brown on Instagram, and I think that might be the only account I have. I don't use X or Twitter anymore. I guess apparently maybe my account still exists, but I don't really look at it. And I honestly don't look at Instagram that much. I just have grown so tired of social media. But they can watch me on Chicago Med, and then there's show called The Beast in Me on Netflix that I'll be in, that's coming out with Claire Danes and Matthew Reese. That'll be out, I believe, this fall. And those are the 2 things I've got going on right now.
Cool. That's very exciting. Thank you. You're very uplifting, inspiring, and a great conversationalist. I know you're looking surprised. I had a blast. This was amazing.
I did too. You've been so great. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. It's been a real pleasure.
I love how Brennan talks about external validation and how it can corrupt us if we chase it or value it too strongly. Brennan explains how the best validation is the one within us. If we only rely on external validation, we will probably be miserable in the long term. Also, from an artistic perspective, if we create purely on what we think others want and move away from ourselves, that's a quick way to lose ourselves. Brennan also talks about flow, which is a really interesting topic for me, in that it's an experience which almost feels like it transcends times, where one is connected or fully immersed in an activity and ever so present. Brennan outlines how he's more able to tap into this space when 1, he is prepared, and 2, he's able to let go. This is an incredible feeling where we put all the thinking, judgment, or negative thoughts to the side and are able to achieve something far greater than often we could have imagined. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Life is like a river. The way of life is to flow with the current. To turn against it takes effort, but the current will carry you if you let it. Float with joy and ease. Anonymous.
Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.